Welcome to Red Ink Mysteries. I'm going to try a new format today, and if you like this format, this discussion format, please let me know in the comments below. I feel like I really want to get the viewer's opinion on some of these mysteries, because many of them are perplexing me, very, very deeply perplexing me, and none so much as these disappearances that appear to be supernatural. Case in point, the ones we're discussing today have been covered on multiple mysteries channels over the years, including Mr. Ballin, I believe. And they involve several cases in Africa, in hospitals, where individuals disappear and are found deceased in the ceilings, in one case in an obscure part of the hospital, in a ceiling that is not designed to hold weight at all. Definitely not an average sized man, 180 to 200 pounds. But here we have in 2017, a 61-year-old man, and I can't pronounce the name, but it's Tatakiki Guatsi. I shouldn't even try. I'm totally butchering the name. But he was admitted to a hospital in Stellenbosch for abdominal surgery. He needed abdominal surgery, and he could barely walk, if at all. And it's reported that he could not walk without help. Well, one day, the nurse who was assisting him stepped aside to get clean linen for his bed. She was outside the door of the room in the hospital. She claims that she was out, I think she said 10 to 15 minutes. She came back in and he was gone from the bed. This is a man who needs abdominal surgery. He can't move on his own, and he's gone from the bed, and this nurse was right outside the door the whole time. A missing persons case was opened. His family was informed of the disappearance, and police and the family came to search for him on the hospital premises. They searched security footage. There was nothing unusual. There was no sign of the guy. They could not find him. 2 weeks later, his body was found by a construction crew in the rafters of the hospital in a remote part of the hospital. This is the only photo I could find of that ceiling. Look at that. How would you get anyone up there? Even if it was foul play, how would you get I'm assuming this is an average weight adult male, 61 years old, let's just say 180 to 200 pounds. How do you get a grown man's body up in those rafters? Okay, so keep that in mind. 2 weeks later, they find him. Of course, there's a stench and all that disgusting stuff that leads him to the body. Okay, 2 years later, there's a similar incident. So this would be, 2019, I believe? It might have been 2020. Excuse me. This is at a different hospital. Let's see, actually a different province. He was, where was this? Mahatma Gandhi Hospital in Africa. I don't see the province name. Sandil Sibia. I can't pronounce these names, I'm sorry. He was working construction and he broke his femur. Pretty major break. You don't want to break your femur. Pretty serious injury. Needed immediate medical attention. So he was taken to Mahatma Gandhi Hospital. He was given the diagnosis at the hospital that he needed to be transferred to a higher level hospital for the immediate and necessary operation. His family came for a visit a few days later. So he's in the hospital a few days later, and he's fine. Everything's fine. On the day that he was supposed to be transferred, so I guess it wasn't that immediate, if it was a few days and he's still in the hospital. Okay, so he wasn't transferred immediately. He was in that hospital a few days. His family came to see him, but on the day he was supposed to be transferred, he disappeared. Once again, an investigation ensued to look for Mr. Sibia, and he couldn't be located. Now look at this timeline again. 2 weeks later, the hospital staff noticed that there's a disgusting foul odor, and when they go to the area, they see leakage coming from the ceiling in a storeroom. And the police were called, and they found his body. And I mean, the similarities are absurd. How can you simply, these hospitals are very busy, guys. They're in many cases, there are official complaints that the hospitals are understaffed and overbooked. In some cases, there's more people in a single room that is supposed to be overcrowded. So how are these people smuggling out patients, or killing them, smuggling them out, and then sticking them up in the rooftops, in the ceilings, with everybody in the hospital? It's preposterous. Now, the only, people said, oh, well, there's a hospital serial killer, one of the nurses or doctors are a serial killer, blah, blah, blah. Okay. No, come on. I mean, that, once again, in this case, in the case of the 61-year-old, the nurse is outside his door. So, yeah, very unlikely. Okay, but I did hear one explanation that kind of made sense in regards to the disappearances in a completely non-supernatural explanation. And that was that because of these hospitals and their bad reputations, maybe they administered drugs or in incorrect doses or something like that, and that caused their accidental deaths. And so these hospital professionals are trying to cover their mistake by getting rid of the body temporarily, hiding it somewhere. Okay. Well, in one case, the nurse was sitting outside the door, and we still have the issue of, okay, was she in on it? Well, if she was, okay, great, but you still have the fact that there's people on the halls, there's people everywhere. No one noticed that a dead body, because this person would have to be dead or at least unconscious to be transferred. No one's noticing these people being transferred out of the room. No one's seeing them being taken to an odd place in the hospital and then stuffed into the ceilings. And you might say, well, that's still more plausible. Maybe they were just wheeling them out on the medical beds, what do they call them, gurneys, or I don't know what they call them. I forget what you call them. Maybe that is possible. Okay, well then listen to this third case, and this is obscure, and I couldn't find the book. And so if you can find the book, you're welcome to read it. I'm sure it's interesting. This is a book called Autopsy by Professor Blumenthal. And he talks of a case. Apparently it's on page 52 in the book Autopsy by Professor Blumenthal. He talks about a man with a chest condition who was admitted at an academic hospital, and he vanished just like these others. He was found dead in the hospital rafters with a cigarette butt next to his body. Okay? Now, the implication is it's not a cigarette butt from the killer, it's a cigarette butt that was in the man's hand. So tell me this, who disappears a body and lets them keep their cigarette? Who murders someone and then takes the body, deposits it in a ceiling, which has to be a monumental task in and of itself, and lets them keep their cigarette? Okay, so this is what I'm getting at. These have to be supernatural. Okay, well, what do you propose? What kind of supernatural occurrence could have happened? Well, what's interesting is when you look at these cases being covered by other channels and news crews and all this, news stations, no one ever proposes anything. They don't propose that there was foul play, because oddly enough, the only autopsy that I was able to find basically said unknown causes of death, which is even more bizarre. So I couldn't find the autopsy report on the other case, but so unknown cause of death, And the fact that no one's speculating, I found very odd. And I know people don't want to speculate because I don't know. People don't want to be wrong, but I'm not worried about that. I believe that it is not a killer. I believe that it is a supernatural, it is a natural phenomena, but you might as well call it supernatural, because I believe that it is a interdimensional hiccup. And hear me out before you laugh me off, okay? We are a speck of dust surrounded by God particles, dark matter, space-time, supernovas, black holes, white holes. Human beings, all that we know about the universe, the substance of the universe, would account for less than 1%. We are surrounded quite literally by magic. Our universes might as well be magic to us. We can't comprehend what it is. You mean to tell me that those forces, that space-time, that other dimensions don't sometimes, by some natural hiccup or something, overlap? I mean, for lack of a better, I'm a layman. I'm trying to express this in layman's terms. But couldn't there be an interdimensional anomaly that occurs on a point on Earth, and these people happen to be at that point? I mean, they both happen within 2 years. 2017 and 2019. Relatively same area. I mean, I think these provinces, I don't think they were very far. I think they're a few hundred miles apart. And look at how they disappeared. They disappeared and reappeared a few hundred feet or maybe 100 yards. I'm not sure. I think in one case it was a few hundred feet, and another one it was a couple hundred. That was a large hospital. The Stellenbosch Hospital is a large hospital. The Mahatma Gandhi is quite small, as you can see in from the pictures. But in other words, it's almost like they phased out of our dimension, and then temporarily, and then they reappeared. But the hiccup, for lack of a better term, the hiccup in this action, this natural phenomena, didn't deposit them back in the exact same place. It deposited them a few hundred feet, 100 yards away, at a different elevation, and it happened to be in the ceiling. And they were deceased. Obviously they died during this natural phenomena, during this transition to another dimension and back. Because the only autopsy I found said it was an inconclusive cause of death. Well, if they were deposited in the ceiling and left, well, first of all, they would have screamed, they could have made noises, they could have brought attention to themselves. And if they couldn't, let's just say for some reason, when they were deposited in the ceiling, they were still alive, but they couldn't call out and all. Still, the autopsy report would show dehydration or malnutrition, lack of nutrition. Probably dehydration is cause of death. So let's say they were murdered. Well, then the autopsy would show murder, right? Neither of those are present. So to me, that's exactly what has to be happening. Unless I would love to hear you guys' opinions on what could be happening. But to me, it is definitely not a killer. It seems like this magical universe of ours hiccuping, and the location just happened to be where these poor souls were. Well, I thank you for joining me here at Red Ink. I'd love to hear your opinions on these two stories. And if you like this format, please let me know. It's this is unscripted, obviously. I have a lot of notes in front of me, and just talk about these events and these mysteries that really perplex me and quite honestly disturb me and stay with me. And so I'd like to discuss it with you, and I hope that you like this format. If you if I was thinking of doing both formats, the traditional storytelling format and then a discussion format. Well, let me know how you feel about that, and we'll see you next time.